Bruce Willis' latest action movie that has the word die in the title is out right now. Let's talk about A Day to Die. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch or Pass. Today I'm talking to you about A Day to Die, which is a new Bruce Willis and Frank Grillo action movie that comes to theaters and on demand on March 4th, 2022. So it's out now. So I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like. There might be some spoilers. I don't think I'm going to go into a full ending discussion, but I might discuss some things that happen. So as you can imagine, there might be spoilers. If you don't want to know what happens in the film, you don't want to find out, turn this off now. Go check out the film. It's in theaters and on demand. If you just want to hear my thoughts, then let's keep going. So first, I'll go with my hot take. I actually think you should pass on this film. I liked the cast a lot, and I liked that there were some big sequences. It has some big action moments, but I didn't love some of the effects. And I think the story, it felt like it did a little bit too much. Like it tried to put a little bit too much into the overall scenario. That should have been a little bit cleaner, and a little bit, I don't know, lower scale, which is weird because I did say I like the big action sequences, but it feels like the story just kind of went for too many loops. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like. So in the film, you've got Conner Connolly, played by Kevin Dillon, who is an ex-officer. He had this event that happened where he was overseeing kind of a rescue mission, and it went poorly. And so that kind of put a black mark on his record. And so now he is, several years later, he is trying to make ends meet. He has a wife who they just found out is pregnant, and he's just kind of, he's trying to live his life and do what he can until he crosses paths with Pettis, a drug lord in his neighborhood, played by Leon. So what happens is one of Pettis' henchmen is assaulting Connor's parolee, and so Connor steps in to try to stop it. That henchman pulls a gun. Connor pulls a gun. Classic standoff. The henchman goes down, and now Connor is on this drug lord's radar. So the drug lord kidnaps Connor's wife, who is pregnant, and holds her hostage until Connor can pay him back for that henchman. You know, he actually did an interesting kind of economic calculation of how much that henchman would have bring in, and then depreciated that. It was kind of interesting, but overall, he has to bring in about $2 million in one night. An insane amount of money, but luckily Connor has some friends who most notably are Frank Grillo, who put together a heist to try to get that money back. Now, that is kind of the crux of this story, the overall conflict. And then the rest of the movie involves them trying to get that money, and then them trying to figure out how to get Connor's wife out, and also figure out how to escape from this new scenario they're in. So things I liked about this movie, like I said, I loved the cast. I thought this cast was really great. You got Bruce Willis, you got Frank Grillo, you got Kevin Dillon, you've got Gianni Capaldi, and you've got Leon. All these actors play really good characters, really interesting characters, and I liked seeing them all together. And I think my favorite was Frank Grillo. He's just a fun actor to watch. He's just so natural. And he's a really good action star. So seeing him in this movie was already kind of a pickup. Bruce Willis is another kind of like nice cherry on top. He plays actually a bad guy in this film, so that was interesting as well. But he doesn't have as big of a role as I was hoping, but he still is in it, and he still does kind of provide that Bruce Willis shine to this movie. The second thing I liked is there were some big sequences. I know that's really tough to do in an indie action film, and so this film went out and did it. There's the initial big event that kind of caused Connor to fall from grace. That is kind of a big explosive shootout event. There's a raid eventually, and then there's also this big kind of heat style action sequence towards the end. All of those are pretty impressive for an indie film. And I was amazed that they took this on, and also that they were done decently well. So I did like the big action sequences. And the last thing I really liked is the soundtrack. The soundtrack had a nice kind of hip hop mix. It had a lot of really good tracks I hadn't heard before, and it really did kind of help contribute to the feel of this film. Like I liked having them pop on when some of the events were happening. It did make this movie entertaining to listen to. Now, things I didn't love as much. The first were the effects. I actually talked to the director, Wes Miller, about this movie, and he said that a lot of the effects were practical. I don't know, it didn't look practical on screen. So I don't know, maybe there's maybe the CG was just little bits in here that were kind of noticeable. But overall, I thought that there was a lot of CG in this movie. There seemed to be a lot of like CG gunfire, CG bullet holes, glass that was shattering that looked CG. There were some scenes that appeared like maybe they had put something out on the window. So I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just a bad screener, but I thought there was a lot of CG, and CG in an action film, it just doesn't help me. Like I always like to have practical effects. Maybe I was off. Maybe I was off. Maybe there were more practical effects. I just didn't like the look of them, but I thought there was a little bit too much CG for the effects. The second thing I did not love is, I guess, the story. You have to have this big event, but the story just felt a little bit too unrealistic. Like it kidnaps the wife. They have to get $2 million. They find $2 million somehow by pulling this crew together. And then eventually, spoilers, they then decide to turn on the police officer by teaming up with the drug lord, who they had originally like tried to kill, to stick it to the police officer for some reason. I guess he was corrupt, and so they all wanted to stick it to him and do this like big bank heist. There were a lot of steps here, and it also felt like these characters, they did a lot of things that were against what I originally thought they were. Like they were supposed to be good people, and so that's why they hit the drug place. But then eventually, I don't know, maybe they were supposed to show that they were getting too far in. But this big pivotal scene is like them shooting out with the cops, and that just seems antithetical to what they were supposed to be. Like they were supposed to be good guys in a bad situation, and then they kind of become bad guys in a bad situation, which I didn't love. I didn't think that kind of fit with their characters and some of the things that they were doing. The third thing I didn't love is, I guess, the ending. The ending had some pretty big sacrifices that seemed to happen quickly, and like one of them was during a firefight. There was this like sniper guy that it was part of the team but couldn't come initially. But he comes in eventually and helps out, and he does this big sequence of helping to rescue them, of getting them out of this situation. And then he's like, all right, now it's my turn to shine. And he like comes out and then just gets shot like instantly. He doesn't even do much. He just gets shot. There was a scene where one of the characters like took a bullet for someone, and they just like were gone instantly. And then there was a big sacrifice at the end that just, I don't know, it didn't feel necessary. Like it felt like the timing didn't work out that well. Like it felt like everyone could have gotten out without that big sacrifice. So, overall, I didn't love how it kind of picked off people at the end. And also the ending did, like I said, kind of seem to change these characters from good guys in a bad situation to bad guys in a bad situation. And I didn't love that, because I thought that they were originally supposed to do this for noble reasons. And the fourth thing I did not love is, I guess, some of the unrealistic sequences. This was kind of hit from the start, so it was something that kind of like affected me right at the start. They were trying to breach into this building, and the way that they breach is they use like an RPG and fire it at the building. Like they fired at the roof of the building, and then they fire it like in the wall of the building. That just didn't seem like that would be in any way a good way to do this. I feel like any sort of good team would have tried to like breach more carefully, like just breach the door, go through a window, something like that, to try to make sure that they didn't bring the place down. And things like that just didn't feel right. Like it didn't feel like the right kind of action for me. And it also led to, I mean, it did have some big explosions, like that, those did cause some big explosions, but it felt very unrealistic. Again, there was another scene where one of the characters had like a red dot on their face. But I think if you looked at the angle from where that red dot would have been, it would have been in the building, which does not seem like that would have been the right angle. Like it should have been kind of on the side of their face. And another character then jumped in front of that, but they got shot in the chest. So they would have to have like, they'd have to have like Michael Jordan hops to be able to get that type of a stop. And also they could have just yelled like, get down, rather than run across the room and jump in front. Again, just little things like that. They make for like exciting big set pieces, but they didn't really feel grounded. And I wanted them to be a little bit more grounded in some of the action. So overall, like I said, there's some things I like about it, some things I don't like about it. I don't know, maybe it just hit some of my pet peeves, but I think ultimately you should maybe pass on this. But if you check it out, like it still is a fun cast and a big action movie, and maybe that's what you want. Just check it out for the comfort of your own home. So that's A Day to Die. It comes to theaters and on demand on March 4th, 2022. And thanks so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.